Ciao everyone and welcome back to a new episode of Learn Italian with Songs. Specifically today we are going to talk about Febbre by Clara. And finally we are finishing the last, this is the last song of Sanremo 2025 Music Festival edition. Very good. Finally, it's been a long journey, but we are finally here. And smaller thing, of course, we are also going to finish the trilogy. I started this this week. Yeah, it was a moment like I was about to start streaming, and then the microphone decided, you know what? I'm going to fall down. So, in loving memory of Sanremo 2025 saga, indeed, but, and it's a big but, we are going to start with 2024 songs. Actually, we already started, I already analyzed some of them, but we'll keep going. And we started back with Diamanti Grezzi that I streamed and analyzed 2 days ago. So, today it's the turn of the last one, the last of everything, the last of 2025 Sanremo Music Festival, the last of this trilogy. So are we ready to talk about a bit, once again, of love, breakups, and sadness? No, I'm joking. Not too much, however, I'm going to explain. So, let's start from the title as usual. Very simply, Febbre in Italian means fever. The lyrics of this song were quite appreciated. I've read some reviews, we can call it like that, and they were quite happy. As usual, Clara was a little bit in the background. In fact, like, the song ranked even lower than the other one, okay? So, technically good, but not really seen. We could put it like that. So, but most importantly, what is the song about? This time I have the statement, and I'm going to translate it. We all have in mind what fever is, which, even if it is not a concrete thing, changes the temperature. It goes up and down, a bit like our days. If the song were an image, would be a melting ice cube. Very important. Remember this ice, because it is central. We find it in the cover of the song. In fact, the cover of the song, which was released as a single, was an ice cube with a heart engraved in it, and also a thermometer. Temperature, very important, the core metaphor of this song. But we find it even in the video clip. Why? Because the whole video clip was recorded in a rink. What is a ring? A rink is that place where you go to skate. Okay, for example, if you want to skate with your friends, but also if you are doing it as a sport, you go to the rink. In Italian, pista da pattinaggio. So, why this coldness is so central in this song? The song is generally about the ups and downs of life, because just like fever, life goes up and down, has ups and downs. In other words, is a roller coaster of emotions. The central idea of the song is something going up and down. And in this case, Clara chose the fever to represent this image. But it is also the coldness, okay? We find it in the cover image. We find it in the video clip. we find it in the meaning, okay? Because we are talking about the coldness you find in relationships nowadays. We already found this image less in Diamanti Grezzi, but already more in Nerogotico. We've already seen, as I mentioned, while analyzing Nerogotico, the references to vampires with blood too cold, okay? And this idea of coldness in relationships, generally with others, gets accomplished in this song. That's why it is a little bit the closure of this trilogy. So now let me show what I mean with the ups and downs in life, in love life, and coldness between people. We start with an intro. Ti sei preso una parte di me. You took a part, a portion of me. Quella ancora più in fondo dell'anima. The one even deeper in the soul. Un sentimento, a feeling, che se si rompe, taglia, that if it breaks, it cuts, come il vetro, like glass. E anche deludere, and also disappointing, è un'abitudine, is a habit. As usual, I need to drink because it's a bit hot. Today, not even that much, but still. So, now, we start with with classic breakup and like classic breakup beginning. Why? Because, or at least, okay, not maybe breakup, but not the healthiest of relationships. So we are talking about breakup, about to break up, generally toxic relationship. We've seen this thing in all the three songs, Diamanti Grezzi, Nerogotico, and Febbre. And we find it even in this song. Don't worry, guys. So I'm not going to melt because I have the ice from Febbre keeping me cold. Anyway, so you took a part of me, the one even deeper in the soul. So you might say, oh my god, that's so romantic, right? Plot twist, a feeling that if it breaks, it cuts like glass. Why? Because the fact that this other person took this part of the artist is not a nice thing, because it generates pain, okay? And in fact, we have the image of glass being shattered and then cutting. And in fact, also, we have the last two lines, and also disappointing is a habit. So, partiamo col botto. Then we have the first verse. Come nel mio primo giorno di scuola, like my first day of school, non so che faccio qui. I don't know what I'm doing here. Il buio è tagliato dalle luci viola. The darkness cut by the purple lights. E il cielo fa come un glitch. And the sky makes something like a glitch. A glitch usually is a visual error you can see in programs, games, and whatnot. So basically, when the image breaks. Tu mi guardi dall'alto, you look down on me, trascinandomi in basso, dragging me down. non ascolti quando grido, you don't listen when I scream, sembri fatto di ghiaccio, you look like you're made of ice. Io sono fatta così, I am made like this. Alle feste chic, at fancy parties, sola su un terrazzo, or sola sul terrazzo is not too clear. Alone on the terrace. Tutti fanno bling bling, everyone shines, io nemmeno mi piaccio. I don't even like myself. So here we have a bit of description of the point of view of the artist, or generally the person speaking the song. The first feeling emerging despite the pain described in the intro is this idea of being lost, okay? Just like, and here we have the metaphor, we feel like during our first day of school, because we don't really know what we are doing, where we are going. Then we have a metaphor that I think is hinting at a club because the purple lights, unless she's describing the lightnings. Because it could also be that this glitch in the sky, purple-ish, that cuts the darkness might also be a lightning. Because of course, when you have a storm, you have a dark sky, no? Then another little note, here the translation is a bit lost in translation. Why? Because in Italian you say guardare dall'alto in basso, which means to look down on someone, but in Italian it means literally to look, to stare at someone from top to bottom, okay? Because it hints at when you look at someone and you're like... So, in Italian, in the song, you find the opposite, okay, between the first and the second line, because you have tu mi guardi dall'alto, from the top, from above, trascinandomi in basso, dragging me down. So, in Italian, you have this opposition. In English, I don't really know how to convey this, so it is a little bit lost in translation because I had to translate you look down on me, dragging me down, which seems a repetition, but if you look the Italian version, it actually has the opposition between the two. Then we have described frustration, you don't listen when I scream, you look like you are made of ice. And here we have ice mentioned, coldness mentioned. And then we have also the description of the insecurities of the protagonist. Because at fancy parties where everyone shines, bling bling is an onomatopoeia normally connected to the shining. Of course, if you shine, you don't really make a noise, but if something shines, in certain lyrics, in certain ways, you can say that it blinks, okay? So while everyone shines at these fancy parties, instead of doing like anybody else, our protagonist is alone on the terrace, overthinking about herself because she doesn't like herself. So we add to the mix also a little bit of insecurities because they always taste good in the mix. And then we have the pre-chorus. Non dire je t'aime, don't say I love you. Je t'aime is French. In Italian would be ti amo, but it didn't fit the lyrics. Dimmelo se, tell me if, ciò che provi è solo febbre. What you feel is only fever. Che sale e scende. That goes up and down. Che mi fa male, male. That hurts me, hurts me. I tuoi occhi blue clean, your blue clean eyes, dicono che, say that, stanotte è solo febbre. Tonight is just fever. Che sale e scende. That goes up and down. Exactly, guys. It doesn't fit the narrative. So, as I was saying, je t'aime is French. In Italian it would be I love you, but it didn't fit the flow of the song. So in Italian it would be ti amo. So she says, don't tell me you love me. Instead, tell me if what you feel is just fever that goes up and down and hurts me. What does it mean? It's just fever. It is temporary. It is not a stable feeling. It is fleeting, okay? And that's why we have the fever to describe this very specific emotion and even relationship, if you will. Because the fever goes up and down. The fever is not stable. And usually, I don't know if this was included, but it makes you feel cold, okay? It makes you feel sick. Because, of course, it is a response of your body to an infection, for example. It means that you are not well anyway. So normally you would hope that to go away. So this relationship is not something positive, right? If we look at the metaphor as a whole. And then she repeats, your blue clean eyes say that because often in many cultures, eyes are the mirror of the soul. Tonight is just fever that goes up and down. So probably it's a one night stand or something like that. Something that it is not meant to last. Something that it is not meant to be stable. But what is this blue clean or clean blue? Many people talked about it during Sanremo because one of the most discussed things during Sanremo is the lyrics, because of course people start singing the songs presented at the festival, and at certain point we are like, what does the artist says in this portion? So, plain blue, also known as International Plain Blue IKB, is a very deep blue tone created by the French artist Yves Klein in 1956. This color is the result of a long search to create a blue paint that would not diminish the brilliance of the ultramarine pigment. It is a very specific type of blue. I don't really know how to explain it better. It is that color that you can check on internet, of course. And it is an eye color. Of course, I really don't think people have this type of nuance in their eyes. Usually, it fits the narrative, of course, as we like to say. But yeah, our good portion of toxic relationships. And then we have the chorus. Tu prendi me, you take me, come un enfant per strada, like a child on the street. Enfant is again French, and it means child. In Italian would be bambino, or in Clara's case, bambina. In abito da gala, in a gala dress, so a very elegant one. Non ci amerà la fama, fame won't love us, non cambierà la trama, the plot won't change. 1000 lune passeranno, 1000 moons will pass, e una ci sarà per sempre, and one will be there forever. Per te che non vuoi scendere, For you who don't want to go down, come la febbre, like fever. So, first note, besides the French note I made, here we have an inversion, because while in English I translated fame won't love us, the plot won't change, in Italian is non ci amerà, won't love us, la fama, the fame, non cambierà, la trama, it won't change, the plot. Here, for how it is built, the last line of this first block can be interpreted in two different ways, because it could be that the plot is the subject, so the plot won't change, just like I translated it. But it could also mean that whatever is happening, so you taking me while I am well dressed and whatnot, won't change the plot, won't change the outcome, because this relationship is meant to end. So we can find this double meaning due to the construction of the sentence. Then we have these 1,000 moons that are going to pass, but one will stay. Now, it could be a reference to the right person. It could be that it could be a reference to the fact that we are going to spend many nights with people, and at certain point we'll keep spending the night with the same people, finding a stable relationship. It could also be that one specific night could hit us right in the meow meow, and we are going to bring with us that memory forever. Again, one of the beauty of well-written lyrics is that they open to several interpretations, and this is a good example. And then, per te che non vuoi scendere come la febbre, for you who don't want to go down like a fever, probably because despite this roller coaster of emotion, this unhealthy relationship, she can't forget him. Okay? So this is another interpretation. Despite everything going wrong, I keep being into you, in love with you, despite you not being healthy with me, like I'm sort of stuck with you. It really depends how you see these lines. Drink, guys, very important for your health. And then we have the bridge. Ti sei preso una parte di me. You took a part of me. Quella ancora più in fondo dell'anima. The one even deeper in the soul. Un sentimento, a feeling, che se si rompe taglia, that if it breaks it cuts, come il vetro, like a glass. Sounds familiar? Well, I bet, since this bridge is nothing but the repetition of the first portion of the intro. And in fact, the only different thing in the intro is the last two lines, missing, however, in the bridge. Then we have the second verse. Corro, corro come dentro un bosco. I run like in a forest. Dentro questo inferno è più difficile. Inside this hell is more difficult. Questo amore, dimmi quanto costa. This love, tell me how much it costs. Ti senti un'ombra qua vicino a me. You feel like a shadow here next to me. Non ascolti quando grido. You don't listen when I scream. E nemmeno se taccio. And not even if I keep quiet. Non ascolti quando grido. You don't listen when I scream. Now, I'll be honest, the first thing that came to mind when I read corro corro come dentro un bosco, dentro questo inferno è più difficile, I run like in a forest, inside this hell it's more difficult, is a reference to the Divina Commedia by Dante Alighieri. Because the Divina Commedia indeed begins in the 3 part of hell, Inferno, okay? And when Dante wakes up to start his going down his way, his path, he finds himself in a forest, una selva oscura. And in fact, the first canto of the first cantica of the Divina Commedia starts with: nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai in una selva oscura che la diritta via era smarrita. Which perfectly matches also this feeling of feeling lost we can find in the song. Because of course the issue of being in a toxic relationship is the fact that you lose your sense of you are not able to orient yourself anymore, you feel lost, because it is a natural response to, how can I say, experiencing, oh my god, it doesn't come to mind the term, contradicting signals. So maybe, I don't know, I'm seeing things that are not there, but to me, the idea remains the start or the beginning of the Divina Commedia. And then we have the second block that it is basically a repetition of something she already said, because she's saying, when you don't listen when I scream, and not even if I keep quiet. I don't listen when I scream, and then she doesn't do anything. She doesn't sing anymore. Probably a reference to, and not even if I keep quiet. Basically, you are not listening to me. All the red flags, guys. If you see something happening to you in this song, call for help. And then we have once again the pre-chorus. Non dire je t'aime, dimmelo se, ciò che provi è solo febbre, che sale e scende, che mi fa male male. Don't say I love you, tell me if what you feel is only fever that goes up and down, that hurts me, hurts me. I tuoi occhi blu clan dicono che stanotte è solo febbre che sale e scende. Your plain blue eyes say that tonight is just fever that goes up and down. Then once again we have the chorus. Prendi me come un enfant per strada, in abito da gala, non ci amerà la fama, non cambierà la trama. You take me like a child on the street, in a gala dress. Fame won't love us, the plot won't change. 1000 lune passeranno e una ci sarà per sempre, per te che non vuoi scendere come la febbre. 1,000 moons will pass and one will be there forever, for you who don't want to go down like a fever. Then we have the bridge, which is basically the repetition of the last part of the chorus. 1000 lune passeranno e una ci sarà per sempre, per te che non vuoi scendere. 1,000 moons will pass and one will be there forever, for you who don't want to go down. Again, this scendere, which literally means to go down, normally the stairs, because usually in Italian scendi le scale, ok? It can be interpreted in many ways. It can mean not to level with me, not to meet me, like not to go out, because as I explained in other contexts, in Italy, when we want to say that we want to go out, for example, we have one of our friends coming and saying, okay, I arrived at your door, I arrived at your place, we can say, ok, scendo. which is basically say, okay, I'm coming. But literally comes to, it means to go down, okay? So again, you can interpret it in several ways. And then we end the song with a repetition, but with variations of the pre-chorus and the chorus. Non dire je t'aime, dimmelo se, ciò che provi è solo febbre che sale e scende, che mi fa male male. Don't say I love you, tell me if what you feel is only fever that goes up and down, that hurts me, hurts me. I tuoi occhi blu clean dicono che stanotte è solo febbre. Your clean blue eyes say that tonight is just fever, che poi ti prende come la febbre, that then takes you like the fever, or a fever. Literally the fever. So, these two lines are the change, the variation. Then we have the chorus, the variant of the chorus, because it changes the beginning. We don't have anymore tu prendi me, we just have come un infant per strada, in abito da gala, non ci amerà la fama, non cambierà la trama. Like a child on the street in a gala dress, fame won't love us, the plot won't change. 1000 lune passeranno e una ci sarà per sempre, per te che non vuoi scendere come la febbre. 1,000 moons will pass and one will be there forever, for you who don't want to go down like fever. And that was the lyrics of Febbre by Clara. And this time I have the tea, guys. This time I have the tea. Which is not even much tea, because there is this thing that it doesn't matter what Clara does. The drama is never concerning her. It is incredible. So, let's start with a couple of things. So, always concerning the lyrics, by the way. Now, as you noticed, Clara uses French. Now, it is not uncommon for Italians to use other languages or even more dialect in the lyrics of their songs. But there is a tiny little issue here, which is when someone uses English, is not well seen because it is like, oh my god, you just want to brag, you are using English because you don't even actually know Italian, so cheap, oh my god. When they use dialect, is like, oh my god, dialect, it is the language of non-culture. Learn Italian, please, since this is the music festival of the Italian song. If you use your dialect, it is so cheap, oh my god. However, apparently, if you use French, in that case, that's okay, that's fancy, and that's an evidence that you are a person of culture. So, what can we say? Well played, Clara. It is true that she doesn't abuse it, okay? It's not like half of the song is in French, but I have this feeling that even in that case, wouldn't have been an issue, to be honest. Because I'll be honest with you, while using English mixed with Italian is seen as cheap, using French is seen as fancy. This is probably due to the influence French had on Italian culture until some years ago, because nowadays every student studies English, right? at school as a second language, but until the boomer generation, okay, the second language taught in Italian school was actually French. Okay, that was the rule, that was the norm. So probably it is due to that. Now, personal opinion, using other languages in your songs that are in a main language, it can be interesting. It always depends how you use it. There are some singers using English words when you have the Italian ones that are completely fine in that context and probably would be even better, or even better when you find some people, like some artists, putting English words who are actually false friends or things like that. So actually, it is not what they mean, or like the pronunciation is completely fucked up, so you can't even understand what they are saying, and so on and so on and so on. As usual, context is everything. Now, that said, to prove her point, during the Sanremo Music Festival 2025 edition, she not only wrote the last song to close the trilogy, not only she kept talking about toxic relationship and relationship issues, generally speaking, but she also organized a stand in Sanremo dedicated to emotional education, okay, and relationship love education. And she also collaborated with another stand that was promoting healthy sexuality. So, what a queen. So, what happened? From the 11th to the 12th, from the 11th to the 15th February 2025, during the festival week, the Farmacia dell'Amore, so the Love Pharmacy, was open on Corso Augusto Mombello 54 in Sanremo. What is this? A space to discuss mental health and emotional well being inspired by the song with which the artist participated again in the festival, again because she already participated in 2024. On the other hand, specifically, this was more about emotional well being, okay? So, love more on a spiritual level. For sexuality, she collaborated with My Secret Case. My Secret Case is an online shop, company, enterprise, as you want to call it, producing sex toys, okay? Of course, producing sex toys, they also promote healthy sexuality. And they had a stand where, of course, they were presenting their products, but also discussing sexuality, okay? Healthy sexuality. So while Clara, because it was her idea to make this stand called Farmacia dell'Amore, she also collaborated for the healthy sexuality part with My Secret Case. Also, like, I really suggest checking out the. I'm not paid, by the way, I'm just telling you. I just recommend you to have a look on My Secret Case website because many of their sex toys are puns in Italian. So I perfectly know that if I will ever buy sex toys, it will be from My Secret Case just because of the play on words and puns. Like, heroes. Why I'm saying that, however, I don't have much tea. Because she ranked 27th, like she was almost last. Okay. Despite having an excellent song, if you ask me, I still think that despite everything, Diamanti Grezzi was better. Lyrics wise, I don't know. I would probably put Diamanti Grezzi first place, second place Febbre, and third place Nero Gotico, only concerning the meaning of the lyrics and the quality of the lyrics. But they are all like very high level. It's really one of those situations where you don't pick like the lesser evil, but you really pick what's best, and they are all good level of poetry. Okay, in fact it was well seen, right? But also what surprised me is that nobody really talked that much. Yeah, me too, Gasso, me too. Nero Gotico slaps, but the rhythm plays a big role, okay? Nero Gotico is more about the vibes, and the vibes are built more through the music than the lyrics, okay? And again, it's not because Nero Gotico... Madonna, non so più parlare. It's not because Nero Gotico is bad. It's just that they are all very high quality, okay? I know that I prefer Diamanti Grezzi. It is a good challenge between Febbre and Nero Gotico. I would actually probably put them pretty much on the same level. But yeah. Now, the reason why I was surprised is because one of the great debates in Italy right now is the whole problem of sexual education and education to educazione all'affettività would be in Italian, which is basically relationship feeling education. Okay. Our humble queen delivered on all three songs indeed, and concerning this, we all agree. Now, as I was saying, I expected more debate concerning this initiative, not really the songs, because unless in the songs you directly insult someone or you talk about the hot topics or the big no-nos, nobody really cares. Or if you're not a big artist. Perfect example was in 2024, Gali and Sargent Amico. They basically did the same thing, but of course everyone was talking about Gali because he's a bigger artist. Pretty much the same concept. Since Clara is still at the beginning, I understand that it was unlikely for her to steal the lights, okay? The spotlight. But I expected something, because really every day I open threads, and in fact I'm opening it less and less, by the way. There are people arguing, and one of the arguments, since quite some time to be honest, is the sexual education and, let's call it, relationship, generally emotional and relationship education. Why? Because we are already struggling to put the goddamn sexual education in schools, which is very important. In fact, some people would like to push it to start from the last years of elementary schools, which makes sense, because back in my days, I remember that I was starting to study biology during the fifth and last year of elementary school. And makes sense because by the end of elementary school, I already had some of my classmates, okay, not classmates because my class was very small and we were only 3 girls, but from other classes, same age, I already knew people who had their first period. Like, you have to prepare children for that. And many people say, oh, but because you should be the school, should be the family, sorry. No, because you can impose certain rules to school. You can't impose it to the parents. It's not that you give a license to become a parent. Potentially, everyone can become a parent. So you have to do something in school to offer a minimum level to everyone. And many say, oh, but only girls have periods. Why should be boys concerned? Because we live in the same fucking world and society. And it would be nice to not have the whole burden of have to explain or hide. Like, Jesus Christ, we are in 2025 and in Italy there are still some men that are scared by periods, okay? I have my boyfriend who's completely able to order, like, actually he orders my pads on Amazon because I have health issues, so I need specific pads. My brother is very efficient in buying pads. We don't use the inner ones. My sister used them, but like, for example, my father, my brother, they are all proficient in buying and dealing, buying pads or menstrual items and dealing with people having periods, okay? There are men who are not able to do so, okay? And that's a problem. Because I remember girls being bullied by boys because they had their periods. I don't think I can convey how problematic a situation like this is. And we were in elementary school. I understand that it can be difficult during the first years, but towards like the fourth and fifth, that are the last years, children are smart enough to understand basic biological function of your bodies. Also because certain people then live their whole life, because the problem is not we can put it in elementary school. The problem it is that it is inadequate also in middle school and high school. University, unless you go and do medicine, like, you are doomed. You either learn something somehow, and like in middle school and high school, or you are doomed. Like, you give yourself to Reddit and hope for the best. And this creates a lot of problems concerning many topics, from STDs to unwanted pregnancy, also because we have a lot of issues with abortions in Italy. So, like, it is a disaster. It is a disaster. And this is only for the sexual education. If we look for the emotional education and relationship education, it's even worse. It is also true that from one side, our teachers in Italy are not paid enough, but it is also true that often that low payment matches low skills and preparation, because there are many teachers who are not able to teach emotional regulation because they are not emotionally regulated themselves. Thank God now, for whatever type of teacher, you need to study at the university and to take care of children like toddlers or like children in kindergarten. You need a specific degree. But for example, you don't need the specific degree, which is children pedagogy, something like that. for elementary school because you need to be proficient in the subjects you teach. And I can tell you, I met in the Italian school some of the most emotionally non-regulated people in my entire life. So, of course, when the teachers are not formed, it is even harder to introduce this topic. Because, of course, we have parents from one side who don't want, like, not all, thank God, but we have too many parents not wanting sexual and emotional education in school. Many teachers don't want that either. And then we wonder why we have a problem with femicide. So, I expected something like My Secret Case. They sell sex toys. But apparently, Clara has this heavenly aura. And if Clara does something, everyone agrees. So I really hope she'll keep continuing with that because at this point she is our hope. Like, I don't know. My hope is that Clara will keep being more and more famous, so at certain point people will just follow her like Jesus Christ came to earth, and they will introduce sexual and emotional education in school because Clara said so. At this point, when you are desperate, you hope in whatever works, right? So, like, I am in this whatever works, I take it sort of situation because it is bad. By the way, of course, I'm not meaning that this is a problem only in Italy. I'm talking in Italy because I studied there. It is a problem also in other countries. I know that, for example, in France, they are having troubles as well. The issue is that in Italy, I know because I studied there for my whole study career. This is going to change this summer because I will study also in France. But until now, I studied only in Italy. So this is what I've seen. In a nutshell, it is a tragic situation. I don't know. Probably nobody really talked about because okay, they presented the initiative, they talked about it every now and then, but the thing is that on social media it wasn't a topic during Sanremo Festival. Everyone was talking about the gossip because they hoped for a brawl between Fedez and Tony F that never happened. And then, of course, there was the whole debate concerning who should win and who should not. People insulting Lucio Corsi, people insulting Olli. So we all have a good amount of drama. I'm just surprised that this whole thing by Clara went a bit in the background. So, but like it was a very good initiative. Luckily, she had chance, like a chance to talk about it. So, like, solo cose belle concerning Clara. Now, that said, we finally finished the analysis of Sanremo 2025. How do you feel it? How do you feel? And so we are ready to keep going with other songs. Of course, if you have any request, I'm listening. And if something comes up in trending, I'll see if it's worth it. And if not, we have our beautiful set of songs from Sanremo 2024 edition. That said, I'll hope. Don't forget Let me know in the comments what you think about the song. That said, grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.